Creative Cake Art, and today we are fixing on a Friday, TGIF, and thank God for Fix It Friday. I have a really basic, this is a fundamental cake know-how, how-to question that a lot of people have actually, and it's regarding fondant and how to get fondant smoothly over a cake, namely how not to have hashtag elephant skin when you're draping your fondant over your cake. Now, we do have a video under our membership tutorials, our Tuesday tidbits, about paneling, which is another way that you can get smooth fondant onto your cake. But if you really want to go with the draping method, it can be a little bit tricky. As simple as it may seem, just to throw a piece of fondant over and smooth it down, there is a trick of the trade that I want to show you today to make sure that when you get to the bottom of your cake, you don't have that like elephant skin and all that like stuff bunching up there on the bottom. And so yeah, I have a ganache cake. It's not a super like tight ganache cake. The edge isn't super tight because we're not really concerned about that with this tutorial. But you can ganache your cake just to start off with a smooth, or even if you were doing this with buttercream, totally works for both. But like I said, ganache your cake to start off with a smooth base. And if you wanted to do it with the upside down method, you can really get your edges really sharp if you're looking for that as well. And then you can watch our tutorial on how to get super razor sharp edges on your fondant cakes to take that even a step further. But today I'm just going to be showing you how to avoid that nasty elephant skin. So have fondant, obvi, and this, which doesn't really need to be here. Never mind that. Okay, so you just make your fondant pliable. Now I am using Wilton fondant. So here's the thing, a lot of times in order to get fondant to be more workable, people just pop it in the microwave for like 10 seconds, and you probably heard me say to do that. But with Wilton fondant, especially, okay, Wilton fondant, this new formula, with the old formula, the old recipe, it was beneficial to pop it in the microwave. But with this new recipe that they've developed, this decorator's preferred recipe, you don't want to put it in the microwave. I was having a lot of trouble with it being too soft, and it is very soft, but I think the key here is to just use it right out of the package. It should be easy to knead, easy to roll out without having to warm it up. If you warm it up, it's gonna be way too gummy and way too soft, and your tearing is gonna increase exponentially, which is what we really want to avoid too when we're draping fondant over a cake. Okay, so this is good to go. Now the other thing that you want to have happen, or you want to have happen fairly well, is you want a big enough piece of fondant, but you don't want to be having so much that you have like a ton draping over. So the best way to make sure that you have enough fondant, but that you're not like dealing with a ginormous bunch of overhang, because keep in mind, anything that's hanging over your bottom part of your cake is going to pull on the fondant that's on the top of your cake. So that is the main thing that causes tearing, is your fondant, the weight of the fondant on the bottom pulling down the top and tearing it. So in order so that we don't have too much fondant, we want to just measure. So we have 8 inches, this is an 8-inch cake, and then we have about 6 inches, which is 14, and then we should have another 6 inches on the side, which would give you 20 inches. So in all the way around, the diameter of the circle that you roll out needs to be about 20 inches, maybe give yourself a little bit more. Now again, you can stretch the fondant a little bit, so maybe give yourself about 21 or 22 inches rolling out. And I have 2.5 pounds of fondant here. I don't think I'm gonna need all of it though. We'll see. Put down a little bit of powdered sugar. Also, before I start this, I want to make sure my cake is wet. You can either spray it with a spray bottle or just wipe it down with a wet paper towel. And this will help your fondant to stick to your cake, which is key. You need that to happen. Okay? Alright. Clean up any chocolate that you don't want to get in your white fondant. I should have did this with like red fondant, then you wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have had any issue with getting chocolate in it, which always happens to me for some reason. Okay. So just go ahead, take your ball, seams downward, and start rolling. While you're rolling, turn in a circle. So you always want to be pushing on a different part of the fondant. Half circle, quarter circle, or whatever's good for you, but just turn in a circle. This way, A, your fondant doesn't stick to the surface, and then B, you're making your fondant into the circle that you want it to be to drape over your circular cake. So that way you don't have like your fondant's not like this when you get done. You know what I'm talking about, where you have like one little piece sticking out here and one there and one in the other place. You want to keep it as uniform as you can. Get your top stuck down. Make sure that all of your fondant is leaning against some surface, okay? So that it's not tearing too much here. All right, so you want to get your top down, all stuck down to your sides, okay? So that you can eliminate, once it's stuck to the cake, you kind of eliminate the pulling that could happen and making your edge all cracky and crazy looking. Crack is whack, okay? All right, so now, so you can see here, okay, so on some parts, like this will happen, right? Don't worry if this happens, because you can always stretch the fondant, and as we begin to work it down, you'll see that it will stretch. All right, so now here is what you need to do. We are going to take our hand and work around, right? This is called the skirting method, where you pull it out and you push down. But you don't want to do one side all at once. You want to really work your way down. So do it about an inch down, all the way around, pulling it out like a skirt, and then pushing it flat into your cake. Okay, once you make it around one time, then you're going to go down like another inch. Continue to pull. You're not really pulling it, you're kind of just lifting it up, like, you know, lifting your skirt as if you were to like sit down in a chair and lift your skirt before you sit down. Okay, just kind of lift it up, go down 1 inch. Keep doing that all the way around. We'll clean that up later, don't worry. Okay, pull and push it down. Okay, and essentially what you're doing is you're making it flat before you push it into the cake. That way you can avoid most of those like creases and that elephant skin that we're trying to avoid here. And if you have an area like this where you need some extra, you need a little bit of slack, kind of give that a little bit more of a tug than you will the other areas. Not too much because you don't want to tear it, but just give it a light tug until you work it down to the bottom. Okay. I have this little piece that's like really trying to crease no matter what is happening. If you do end up with something like that, don't worry about it too much. Just go ahead and smooth that piece down as well. And then I'll show you how to fix that afterward, if you do end up with anything like that. Now once you get toward the bottom, then it starts to really want to crease up. Don't let it, first of all. But this is where you have to get extra diligent about lifting and pushing. Lifting and then pushing. So that you don't allow that ruffle to stay there. You lift it and push it. this episode of Fix It Friday and seeing how to cover your cake in fondant and avoid all of that elephant skin bunching up on the bottom, please join us next week for another episode of Fix It Friday. And remember, if you have anything specific that you want to see, any comments or questions that you have, any fix-its that you need help with, please leave them in the comments below this video or at our Instagram page at Cake College. We will be picking an answer or picking a question and making a video answer for you every Friday. Bye, y'all.